All right, we are live. This is Coach Arnie with the Health, Love, and Life show, and on the WGSN GoingSoloMedia.com. And we have a wonderful guest tonight, Mr. Dane Stevens. We'll just call him Dane. And he's an author, speaker, and facilitator. He is the developer of neurotrauma healing process, of the neurotrauma healing process and the soul regeneration process, healing modalities that were developed out of sheer necessity as he had his nervous system seriously compromised by a well-meaning therapist who tried to force a childhood trauma out of him. It left him in a state of constant anxiety and turned his life into complete shambles, leaving him homeless, afraid, and out of control. It took Dane 5 years to understand what had happened to him and another year to discover what would give him relief and give him his life back. The result of that 5-year search is the neurotrauma healing process, which he calls NTHP. Dane now lives very happily in the interior of British Columbia. I'm jealous. With his life partner, Anne. They now teach neurotrauma healing process to those in need of healing and those wanting to get trained in this profound new process. Dane feels incredibly lucky to have come through what he has and blessed to have discovered this process that brought deep peace, connection, and fulfillment into his life. He now feels a sense of duty to pass this valuable information on to others who need it. Dane, welcome.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
You know, guys,
can I finally connect with you, Arnie?
Yeah. And, you know, in my audience, we've talked a bit about it. You know, I've been studying the human brain and mind. I shared probably a little bit with you for about 35 years. And so I'm always intrigued by what individuals like you are doing and what you are going through and how you have solved problems with this, probably the last great frontier, right? Because we still know so little about the human mind. We really do. And so one thing that I was impressed by you, Dane, was your confidence. And I think that confidence and is more a sign of courage because of what you have gone through. Because, you know, once you've seen, it's like me crossing the Grand Canyon. You know, if you stand on one rim and look across the other rim, you go, oh my God, I got to go all the way across there and back. You go, done that. It's not easy, but you've done that. And I think that confidence gives you the courage now to help other people, or at least get them to help themselves, right?
Well, I think, you know, like you talked about knowledge, when you know, it's not a belief and it's not a theory and it's not not something you have to keep convincing yourself of. You know. And, you know, that's really a lot of what I feel my purpose is at this point in time is educating people so they understand how they work. And that's half the game, is understanding how you work and what you are. And when you understand that, it takes the power away from the thinking mind. And most people, that's their reference point. And that's the crazy maker. And, you know, when you talk about the brain, that's a very big conversation. More like when you talk about the mind, the brain is a response mechanism. It reacts. The mind, you know, what is the mind? The mind doesn't end. So that's a whole other topic altogether. Brain and mind are, you know, related. Exactly. They are not the same thing.
Right, exactly. So Dane, what is neurotrauma healing?
So the neurotrauma healing process is a left-right brain process that gives us direct access to our subconscious mind. Our subconscious mind is by far our most powerful creative faculty, said to be some thousands of times more powerful than our conscious mind. Don't know where the numbers come from, but I do know that the subconscious is where we hold our fixed beliefs, our core beliefs, our values, and therefore it really is the drive behind our life. And most people don't have a clue what they think and what they believe at the level of the subconscious mind, and therefore tend to blow in the wind, not knowing why they're getting what they're getting in their life and not knowing why they're not getting what they say they want in their life. So it really is about aligning the conscious and the subconscious mind. When you do that, that's when all your energy is going in the same direction, and you have your power back in that way. So
interesting. So, okay. So what exactly do these processes do? Because I'm a big believer in process.
So
what exactly do these processes do?
Life is a process, and this process does not end. And as I say that, please don't be, you're not staying in healing forever. This is not what it's all about. We actually don't keep our clients for long. But I'll just explain, first of all, how we as human beings process things. And when we have that understanding, it makes sense as to how we deal with it. And it's simpler than we might think. We just haven't known how to up until now. So how we process things is they come in through the right brain. The right brain is formless. It's color, sound, imagination. It's all the senses. So the right brain experiences this raw data in its entirety and then sends it to the left brain to be made sense of, understood, and filed. So if the information that's sent from that right brain to that left brain is too much, too outrageous, too scary, too bizarre, too much, that left brain rejects it and sends it back to the right brain. The right brain does what the right brain does, sees it, feels it, experiences it in its entirety, and sends it to the left brain to be made sense of and filed. If it's still too much, too overwhelming for that left brain, it rejects it again, and the cycle has begun. And the cycle keeps going in your nervous system trying to process itself. And the brain's MO is survival. So it does not want this barrage of scary, potentially dangerous information or ununderstandable information. So it pushes it out of the way to the subconscious. Is it gone? Is it out of the way? No, it's still very much alive, looping in your nervous system at that time. And it's just trapped somewhere in your body, still trying to process itself in your nervous system. So what we do is through the left, right, what happens in the time of trauma, and this is a bit of a generalization, but the right brain gets locked out. So what we do is we give you access to that's been locked out in your nervous system. And the foundation of this work is trust. When you build that level of trust, when there's that level of safety, that can unfreeze, that looping can unfreeze, and you can process that and bring that experience that happened so long ago back into this present moment where it's not happening anymore. When you do that, that tape that has been incessantly looping in your mind unconsciously or subconsciously slows down to the point of stopping, and it's quite simply not happening anymore. Therefore, where you used to get triggered or used to self-sabotage yourself or wake up with a fourth drink in your hand or attract abusive relationships, it's just not there. So yes, that will literally subside. And that sounds very simple, but maybe we have just overcomplicated life. And once we have access to that and learn how to give ourselves what we need, it can and will dissipate. So
is trust then a key to how they do work? How these processes work?
That's the foundation. Inner compassionate connection is the key. Okay. And we really suggest with people that just start out, it's all in the book. The process is fully in the book. But we really do suggest you work with a facilitator in the start, just to make sure that you are able to create that connection with certainty and in a safe and gentle manner. And it doesn't take long. And once you make that connection and know it's real, to learn how to give yourself what you need to feed yourself. So it's profound work, I have to say. And I want to be clear, it's not a quick fix. It's a relationship. And when you connect to that life within you, and you know that it's real, it's the relationship that is the healing. So it's not a quick fix. It's a relationship. And with any relationship, it takes time and effort, but it doesn't take that much time for the most part.
Yeah. And so two things here. Are these natural occurrences? Completely. And are there any side effects?
So the one great side effect is we see people setting boundaries without any animation, without any fear or animosity. And they will come back and say, I just didn't react, or I just walked away, or I just said no. And without any, force or anything like that. So these are completely natural processes. And it's just simply dealing with the left-right brain. And it's imperative, because of what I went through, that they be safe. That's the whole idea. And you're never given more than you can handle, because it's coming from you. When we work with people, when we facilitate you getting access to your subconscious mind, so you get your answers from you. We do not tell you what to do. We do not, give you information. We don't know what you need and how to heal yourself, but I do know that you do, and it's that connection. So we facilitate you making that connection, and you're always in charge. You're always conscious. In that way, it's simple with about a gazillion different variables.
Wow.
So working of knowing how the subconscious mind works is
sure. So Dane, what happened to you that put your central nervous system into a tailspin, causing your life to fall apart?
So I was actually doing very well in my life. Had a successful coaching training business, and had making good money, living in a great place off the ocean, doing some traveling. Life was good for the most part in all areas except for my relationships. And because my relationships I would sabotage or destroy them somehow, and then seeking intimacy elsewhere, that became such a pattern that I knew that I had to look at it. And then I knew I had to look at it because I wasn't sure if I had dealt with a childhood abuse issue myself. So, I really, at that point I needed to know. And because they asked the question, I knew I had to look into it. So, and I did some groups, and those didn't quite resonate with me. And I did a bunch of different counseling things, did talk therapy, did just gestalt. I did some EMDR even, and nothing seemed to really get anywhere. And then I was referred to a therapist / healer, came highly recommended, and I went to see her. And a number of sessions in, she asked me if I would like to go for a home run, she said. And what that meant was forcing the trauma out. And I knew nothing of trauma at that time. And I was very grounded in my life. I had a good solid exercise program and a good meditation program. I was just really solid and grounded in my life. So I didn't even think about being thrown off balance or thrown off the tracks. And a number of sessions in, I did say yes. I said, okay, let's go for it, not knowing what I was saying or what could happen. And a number of sessions in, she had me twist on the table in some position and tell me to go there. And I was totally out of it. I didn't even know which way was up. And when I got off the table, I was scared for no reason. I had jittery platelets, and I was been plugged into a 220 volt outlet. And I just assumed it would pass. I assumed that it was just something that was passing through and that would pass, and it did not. And it got worse. And I continued to see her, but the inside being the creator of the outside, feeling unstable and fearful, my whole world started to crumble around me. And I lost contracts and clients. I lost the sale of a business. I lost everything. Within 18 months, I was broke. And she quit seeing me because I ran out of money, but also I think as much because she didn't know what to do and what she'd done. So I remember at one point literally yelling at her on the phone saying, "You can't leave me like this." But she didn't know what to do. So I went on a mad search to figure out what the heck happened to me, how to get my life back. And it took me 5 years to find somebody that could tell me what happened to me. And ironically enough, she could tell me because it was Hazel, and she had the same thing happen to her. She had a healer try to force the trauma out of her, and it messed her up. And it gave me great hope meeting Hazel, because she, had experienced what I've experienced and came through it and was doing well. So it gave me great hope. But I didn't get the healing from that. She was a student of Peter Levine and Bessel Van Der Kolk and so on. So I learned about trauma, learned how the nervous system worked, which was great, which was a real foundation for me. But it wasn't until I ran into John Bradshaw's left-right brain work that I made the connection. And within, I tried to do it on my own, and that ended up being a fight with myself. But I managed to find somebody. It took me months to find somebody who would do this work with me because nobody did it. And I tried to talk counselors and therapists into doing it, and they wouldn't do it. And I found Mary, and she worked with me. She said she would work with me, and it took 2 months, and I had traction. And that's what I have coined traction, is having a consistently healthy and positive relationship with that inner life. And I was able to take the work over on my own, and these processes that are now make this a usable process for people is what flowed out of me, and that's what's in the book now. So there's the long answer.
Is that how you develop these processes? This whatever you call it a process? It's not a system. It's a process. It's a process.
So it's a left-right brain process. And we work with people. We have facilitators that work with people one-on-one. I also do online stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, there's a webinar that's on right now, which I did yesterday, which is on Facebook right now. And that's an intro about it. And I have one on the 28th, which is an interactive way. They get to actually experience it. And it's a left-right brain process. We use left-right brain writing, which is the foundation of the work. But it goes a lot further than that. That's how we access the subconscious mind. And with that, you get to literally unwind what has been looping within you. And once again, it's about that level of trust. And when you create that level of trust, we unfreeze that from looping in your system and stop it altogether. So therefore, the negative pattern, the chronic condition, the unwanted behavior, whether it be with your health, your wealth, relationships, wherever it shows up, will cease. And you will then, take a step back into your power or have your choice back. So does that make sense?
It does. It does. And, one, obviously it helps that I am interested in the mind.
Right.
And most people are afraid of that aspect because it's something that they don't understand. Fear, thoughts, whether it be anxiety, depression, or whatever they're feeling, they have no control over that.
Yeah.
And so hearing what you're saying, it's like, really, is it possible?
Yeah.
And I think that's the kind of the Wild West that you're in there.
And it's time. Like I look at how my life has unfolded and how this has unfolded, and clearly I'm supposed to bring this stuff forward.
Oh.
And
it's so needed because it's a mess right now, Dane.
And it's so simple.
It's a mess.
And we just haven't known how. We liken it to electricity. We just haven't known. Like electricity is it's always been there. We just had to discover it. And this is the same thing. This is a direct line to your subconscious mind in a safe and gentle manner. And in that way, that's where putting the book out was a bit of a challenge, because I don't want somebody taking themselves to some place where they don't know where to go from there, or not, getting to a place of discomfort. Right. So, we want them to work with a facilitator so we can guide them in that process and they have an understanding of the subconscious mind. But, Dr. John Bradshaw, like he says, is the wounded child becomes the wonder child. And that's exactly right. Like our life comes from in here, and these traumatic experiences, these challenges that are happening in our life, that are consistently happening as in chronic conditions and addictions, those, when we learn to go inside, that's the segue to higher consciousness. When we heal this part, it leads us to a higher consciousness that is in us, that is us. So the more I do this work, the more I play this game of life, the more I see that maybe it's set up perfectly. Maybe all these conditions that keep happening are going to keep happening until you go inside and learn how to feed yourself and give yourself what you need, until you learn that you are your source. And when you give yourself what you need, whether it be safety, whether it be love, whether it be respect, whatever it is, when you give it to yourself inside and you make that connection and you have that relationship and you give that to this part, and it feels safe and it feels loved and it feels respected, guess what shows up in your world? Love, respect, safety. There's nothing to do. Life is an inside job, and that's what this will show you. When the inside changes, the outside changes. Beautiful. Maybe the outer world, the physical world, is just a feedback system showing you what you're thinking, what you're believing, and how you're treating yourself.
Beautiful. Hey, we're going to take about a 10-second break here, Dane. Just hang tight. We're just going to just count to 10 here. Okay, and then one thought that came to my mind before I ask you the next question here is that when you were talking about, it looks like Kathy's got a question. I do think of listening to my inner voice or a thought. Is that what you are talking about?
Possibly. And, we do the left-right brain writing, and I don't know why this is, but it's the physicality. I get, the right brain controls the left side of the body, left brain controls the right side of the body. So to do the alternate writing, that doesn't lie. And it's interesting because males seem to be able to fudge this a little bit because we're so left brain dominant, I suppose. But with females, it's like they're hardwired, like they can't lie to themselves. It's quite interesting, and it will come out. If you just stick in your mind, this thing lies to you all day long. So you can't trust that. And to understand that you're not your thoughts is such a huge key. Yeah. So in that way, it's kind of contradictory because in the start, we're dealing with thoughts looping in your nervous system. And for a lot of people, that's keeping them from being able to be present in this moment. A lot of people can't meditate because they have so much stuff looping in their subconscious mind that is keeping them from this present moment. As you slow these tapes down and stop these tapes from looping in your nervous system, what happens is it creates space in you. That space equals peace. And when you listen into that, when you are able to let that out, that's the higher consciousness, not just the mind that's continually rattling off stuff from your past for the most part. So
Kathy just mentioned it.
Sorry, go ahead.
Kathy, did you see that where she said thing, not think? Did that make sense to you? Thing, not think.
I'm not sure what she was referring to.
Comment. Thing, not think. Oh, here we go. I do this think of listening to my inner voice. Is that what you are talking about?
Basically, yeah. And the thing is, it's about making that pure. And not just the incessant thoughts that are continuing to roll in your brain. And because that tends to be the programming. So the first thing that we do with clients is we create a connection until they know it's real. But the second thing is to create separation. We untangle them from the experience. Because what happens is when a person has a trauma looping within them, and I'm going to talk about trauma in a second too, because you'd be hard pressed to find anybody that doesn't have what is actually a trauma. We all have a degree of what that is, and I'll explain more what that is. But when something occurs that is similar to that experience, whether it be a sight, a sound, a smell, a big person, the dark, whatever that is, and that gets fired and the synapses happens in your brain, and all of a sudden you're there. It's like you have no choice. Just ask and somebody with alcohol or drug addiction, it just occurs and you're there. You wake up with a fourth drink in your hand. They feel helpless because it fires and you're there. So we want to create separation from that. And when we create separation, then you can give that part what it needs. But until you do, you think you are it and it just takes you over. So creating separation from those incessant thoughts. And therefore, once again, being able to give that part, understand that part, and give that part what it needs. Does that make sense? Was it Kathy?
Before I get into my next question here for you, I want to go back a couple minutes where you were kind of describing a bit about your program and how the facilitators work. It sounds like you're a little more... and I'm a big believer in this technique of being a little more hands-on, kind of like teaching somebody how to ride a bike, until they're ready to go solo.
Yeah.
Was that developed by you because of what you went through, and all of a sudden you were left out there on your own with what the hell?
Yeah. And that's where I say it was a challenge putting this book out, because I'm not willing to put anybody at risk. And I mean, it's gentle and it's safe. It's not, nobody's forcing, and we really stress that in the book, and we stress when we work with people, this is not force. It's about trust and having inner compassionate connection. That's the key. That's how you unfreeze trauma. But to just put it out there, I knew people would try it on their own, but I couldn't keep it a secret. So, but when we work with clients, we want them to do this work with a facilitator first, ultimately. And when you work with a facilitator doesn't do a certain number of hours or sessions and they're certified. They're certified when they come to a place of wholeness within them. And that's when the conversation starts about getting certified to be a facilitator. So it's, unless you're whole and have a full understanding of the subconscious mind, you can't facilitate this work. And it's people who are a product of the product. And they have had the results.
So Dane, is anybody else doing this type of work?
No, not that I know of. And the thing is, it's not new. This left-right brain process has been around for a long time, like 100 years or more, I'm sure, probably longer since we've been writing, I'm sure. But nobody has made it into a usable process. Nobody has developed it. And so now it's been made into a usable process, developed into a usable process that we can use with people, and it travels a long ways. The NTHP, the Reclaim Your Power to Create Your Best Life, that book is about healing. But I didn't think I could take people from going from, dealing with a deep-seated trauma, deep-seated issue to, what I'll call spiritual liberation in the same book, because this work travels a long ways. You have amazing wisdom inside of you. And all you need to do is, I say, get these beliefs in separation out of the way, but it's more connecting with them and relating with them. And then they will resolve. And what resolves is the belief in separation. And you literally experience and feel that wholeness. And you become present. There's no longer these things looping your mind that are taking your attention and that you're reacting from. So
you can actually heal, resolve issues for good.
For good. Yeah. This is not a quick fix. It's not a Band-Aid. It's not a technique to overcome or blow through. It's not a compensation.
It's not a Band-Aid.
And it's not something to cope. It's not that you bring it to resolution. You don't have to deal with it anymore because it's happening inside of you. How do you know? And I want to talk about trauma. So if I can just explain trauma a little bit more.
Take your time.
Because when we say trauma, people tend to think of some huge physical, emotional event that happened. You're in a car crash, or you're severely abused, or you were beaten, or you had the experience of war, some big physical, emotional thing. And those are traumas. Those are big T traumas. But there's also the little t trauma that are harder to spot, or a lot of times we don't recognize them as traumas, but they do create a trauma within us. And all trauma means is something stuck looping in our nervous system unprocessed. And the little traumas might be something like neglect. With neglect, it seems like nothing happened. And that's exactly right. But if you're, as a young child, which is where most of our traumas originate, because we are such sponges and we just soak everything in. So if somebody doesn't recognize us, ignores us, we know that, and we'll make a decision about ourselves that therefore, and our natural expression gets affected. It skews our natural output, our natural expression. So right there would be a trauma. Or if you're, grew up with a high functioning alcoholic, I can just about assure you that a person past their abuse, which is alcoholism is a self-abuse, that got passed on you and you might not even know it. So therefore your behavior got altered and it became a trauma. Or even if somebody, a loved one close to you dies, could be of natural causes, but if that was really a go-to person or you're very close to them, once again, alters your world.
Dane, this was a big wake-up call for me about, 10, 11 years ago. When I first learned of the absent father. I grew up with an absent father.
Yeah, lots of those.
And our generation, you and I are probably close in a similar generation. It was very common to grow up. The dad was there, but wasn't there.
Yeah, not available. Yeah,
not available. Alcoholic, drinking, and no love. There was never a "I love you."
Right.
That word was never heard. Right. And so there's always this performance anxiety that I had to do things to impress my dad.
Right.
And it never was good enough. So then we're addressing the two major fears in the world of not being good enough and not sure if we're even being loved.
Yeah. Yeah.
So where does the performance ends, Dane. So that it manifests itself in trauma, would it not?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And, and you can even know that, and you see that you keep trying, you keep going, you keep, and you can even know that it's about trying to, get your father's love and attention. And if you don't make the connection to that actual life inside of you and let that speak, and it might be angry, and you gotta let that part be angry because he's got a right to be freaking angry.
We didn't know. You didn't know, right?
Yeah, no. I mean, and what's been interesting about this work is we don't direct it. We let the process guide us, so we don't know what's going to come out. And as I say that might scare people, but that's it's this is your life, and it's when you do this work, it's gentle and safe. But some of the things that have effect in your life, you might not even know. I'll give you an example. And sorry, I missed that. We'll get back to Kathy's question.
Kathy just said thanks. She loves your topic. She thinks it's very interesting. And she's
great. Yeah.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thanks, Kathy. Yeah. Any questions? Keep them coming.
Yeah.
But I had an incident, something come up in me, and I didn't even know it happened. And I guess I was 3 or 4 or something, and I wandered away from home, and I got stuck in the mud. We were in a very rural area down in Vancouver area, but way out in the sticks there. And I got stuck in the mud, and I guess I was just screaming blue bloody murder. And some Japanese fellow came by and took me out, and I made it home. And my mother was in complete panic because I was gone for 2 or 3 hours or something. She couldn't find me. And I didn't know that. And I had to ask my mother, did this actually happen? And she's, oh yeah, it scared me to death. So, it's stuff that gets stuck in us. We don't even know. So to clean this stuff out, you have no idea how freeing this is.
Yeah. You bring up a topic here because my brother, when he was a young man, I think it's because he was working. We were young kids. He was doing a paper route, and he was just pretty intense guy. But he used to sleepwalk. And then I remember I don't know how it ended, but I do remember this big event. And what your story there just kind of stimulated that thought in my head. And we lived near a canal here. And all I remember, and I don't think I heard it, but I'm not sure. But I know my dad or mom heard it, and they heard the door slam. And my brother was gone. It was the middle of the night. Literally, within 10, 15 minutes, the police were back at our house, and they found him literally in an area right by the canal, quite a distance away. So this young fella, and I got to say he was less than 10, had to be running at breakneck speed.
Wow.
Middle of the night to get to this spot, Dane, where the police officers were able to find him. When they shined a light on him, he woke up. And then bring it back home.
Wow.
So have you worked with stuff like that? And I've never brought
Well, what's that?
I'm gonna bring this up to him next time I talk.
Yeah. So I mean, I swear we've worked with everything, and so many stories make my life look like such a cakewalk. It's amazing what people have gone through. But I have never worked with somebody like a sleepwalker.
That God, God forbid he didn't run into a hole.
Yeah.
Hit by a car.
Yeah.
He had to cross a major street at running breakneck speed to get there.
Wow.
Just to get, because we started putting this together. Wait a minute. When did you find him? I mean, literally, it was you heard the door slam, and then just a few minutes later,
morning run.
But again,
so did he continue to sleepwalk?
No, I think it ended. I think that might have been the event, might have ended it. But I remember getting up in the middle of the night, and he'd be wandering around the room and talking, and my mom would get him, and she'd sit down. My mom was very gentle.
Yes. I wouldn't doubt if that would have stopped the sleepwalking, because that's a pretty intense, pretty scary thing. That probably sunk in after.
Yeah, when you're like 8, 9, 10 years old.
Yeah.
The cops pick you up, take you home. Like, what the heck did I do wrong?
Yeah, I have to admit, I have no comment on that one. I do not know about the sleepwalking thing. That's a whole new.
I know. Yeah. When you brought that up, this little kid running, playing in the mud. Like,
yeah, right.
My brain went to, Dane, is how did you remember how to get home?
Oh, me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like it was only like a couple blocks away or something.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't, like I say, I don't even remember. So I think the Japanese gentleman actually brought me home. I think because that's my mother knew that too. So he must have brought me home or something. I don't know.
And this is kind of a question for Kathy and anybody else that's out there watching. How would people know that it would work for them?
So there's not a person this process would not help, but it's not for everybody. And that being said, we say there's two prerequisites. One is that you're open-minded, because it is abstract work and it doesn't make sense to that left logical brain. So you have to be willing to at least suspend judgment or suspend your disbelief, because it will show you. But the degree of success that you will have in this work is the degree that you let out what wants to come out. So it really is about getting out of the way. So the first one is to be open-minded. And the second one is to be open to the potentiality, the possibility that you're completely responsible for your life. Because this work will show you how you're creating your life and why you're getting what you are in your life and why you're maybe not getting what you say you want in your life. And I want to qualify responsibility, because when I say responsibility, we're not saying that you're to blame for being abused as a child. That's not at all what we're saying. What we're saying is when you understand, you see that you have a pattern in your life somewhere. Doesn't matter if it's your health, your wealth, relationships, career, wherever it is, or just anxiety or depression, whatever it is. You understand that the common denominator is us. It's a common thing. It's a chronic thing. So we are the common denominator. Therefore, it's happening inside of us. So when you understand that, you take responsibility in knowing that it's happening inside of you, and you go inside and do your work.
Good thought. It triggers another thought in my head. So if somebody has anxiety, which there's a lot of today, obviously, especially with younger people, what do you think of the idea of, first of all, when they express their anxiety to you, say, okay, you don't deny, you say, so what do you want to do about it? Basically giving them ownership, responsibility to, and empowering them to, what do you want to do about it?
Well,
versus Dane, you fixing it.
Yeah. So once again, this is what I love about my work. I don't coach anybody. I don't give any information. And they don't need to do anything except listen. Well, that's not completely true, because what happens is we want to let this life speak, and you get to listen and follow that. And once again, the wounded child becomes the wonder child. So you want to let that anger out, but that anger gets put out on the page. You let the anger on the page. If you go out and express it, in the world, you'll destroy your relationships, your career, your finances, whatever. So, but in this work, you need to let the anger out. You need to let the sadness out, the depression out, whatever it is, but you can let it out on the page. You can get it out of your system in a safe way that is fully, that actually gets it fully out. Beating on a pillow and so on, that's great and wonderful. But if it's not from this place, if it doesn't come from that connected place, from the part that is actually feeling that way, it's temporary, and it will just be for that moment. So you find out what this part needs, which leads me to the topic of self-love, which is a very confusing thing for most people. Looking at yourself in the mirror and telling yourself how wonderful you are is great. Getting massages and pedicures is wonderful and fine. But in order to love yourself, first you have to understand how to love yourself, which means understanding what you need. And that means connecting, making the connection to this inner life, and listening and taking your lead from that. And that sounds, for somebody who hasn't made that connection, doesn't understand that sounds so ethereal and so out there. But it's when you do this work and you make that connection, you know that it's real and you completely identify with it because it's you. It's a part of you.
Yeah, I love that, because we could talk for hours on that topic alone. You know that. But Dane, take a couple minutes. What kind of people do you work with, and are there any requirements? So,
as I said, there's the two prerequisites of being open-minded and open to the possibility you're responsible for your life. I have quit trying to figure out who is going to embrace this work and who is not, because I just, some people you think are just the perfect fit for this work, and they just, don't do it or don't follow through or what have you. And some people who you think, probably won't be a fit, and they just totally embrace it. So I'll just tell one example. I had worked with one gentleman, and he was a very left-brain guy. He was an entrepreneur, very successful guy, and he had a heart condition, and he was scared. And he came to us kind of as a last resort, and heard about what we did and wanted to try it out. So I said, sure, not really knowing how that would go. And he had a heart condition or a heart operation scheduled for 2 or 3 months down the road. And sure enough, he embraced the work and showed up for himself and did the work. And within 2 months, his heart was back to a regular heartbeat. And he never had to have the heart operation. So that was really phenomenal, because I'd never worked with somebody with such a physical thing with that. Got lots of people off medications and chronic pain, so I guess I shouldn't be surprised. But it was just such a specific thing. And his heart rate went back to a normal rhythm. It just shows us that the body's the effect. So. But as long as a person is willing, that's the only thing. As long as you're open and willing, and when I say willing to suspend all disbelief and let what wants to come out, and willing to show up for yourself. And a lot of times that's hard for people, especially it's hard for men to show themselves compassion. So a lot of times that's why a facilitator is required. So we help you to show up for yourself. So.
Wow. Dane, there's so many more questions I have, and so much more we could really dig deep into. But why don't you take the last minute or so, a couple minutes, explain to everybody how they can find you, how they can find your book, and anything else that you think is important. And if there's anything else that I didn't ask tonight that you want to answer quickly, please take the last couple minutes here and run with it.
Okay, great. So the book is on Amazon, also at Barnes & Noble, I believe. So it's Reclaim Your Power to Create Your Best Life. There it is, right there. There you go. And you can go to my website, danestevensonline.com, and see what events we have there and learn more about it. And you can also go on Facebook. It's Dane Stevens, An Extraordinary Life. And there is, I just did a webinar yesterday, and it's still posted up there. It's going to be up there till Monday. And it explains the whole process and what we do. And which leads to another webinar on the 28th of October if you want to actually experience it. So you can have the experiential webinar on October 28th. And so you can check out the first one, see if it works for you and if that resonates. And if somebody's, the book is there, has the full process in it. If you do need some help, by all means, get a hold of us, contact us. And we have another website, extraordinarylife.ca, which shows more about the process itself as well. So, whoever needs help, just begin. The scariest part of fear is the anticipation of the unknown. Yeah. And it's interesting because if you had any idea what was on the other side, you would dive in. And as I say that, let me correct that, because we're not looking for breakthroughs. A breakthrough is very much an egoic statement, like you're going somewhere, you're getting somewhere. Where you're getting is right here, right now. So it's about inner compassionate connection. But yeah, when you keep showing up for yourself, you have no idea how much that will change your life. You get to realize that you're the source of your life. And when you feed yourself what it is that you need, it simply shows up out there. So, I say face that fear with loving compassion and be gentle. But go inside. That's where your life is. This work will show you life happens from the inside out. So. All
right. Well, beautiful work, my friend. I appreciate you.
Thanks so much, Arnie. Thanks for doing what you do.
Yes, I love
Appreciate it very much.
Keep it up. Let's stay in touch. Everybody, This guy is a special person. So tap in, and if you have any questions, please get a hold of him. Awesome. All right, guys, this has been the Health, Love, and Life Show. This is Coach Arnie, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.